Welcome to Paranormal M, where the unexplained becomes reality. Subscribe now. Stay connected to chilling episodes that will captivate your mind. The supernatural is closer than you think. The Yellow House. Year is 1993. My parents have 3 kids at the time. My oldest sister, my older brother, and me. 2 more sisters came later on. We're closing on the house. My parents are closing on our house, and, well, this is where it all started. As closing was coming to an end, my parents were asked if they had any more questions about the property. My mom asked about Mr. G, who was the seller, if anybody had died in this house. Random question. Mr. G's response was, "Why? Are you scared of ghosts?" I guess that was the end of their closing. So we move in. It was a hood city, but our neighborhood was one of those movie neighborhoods where all the houses looked the same, except for the one that we just bought. Everybody knew everyone and everything that went on. All the houses in the neighborhood were single-story, 2-bedroom, 1-bath houses, with a kitchen, living room, and dining room. Mr. G added on to this house, apparently. He did this when he owned it, and it was a 2-story, 5-bedroom, 3-bath, with a beauty salon and a workshop attached. I think Mr. G's wife was maybe a hairstylist. So, our house was the biggest in the neighborhood. We get settled in the first week. My bedroom was supposed to be the last room on the left upstairs. But from day one, I was terrified of that room. So, me and my brother shared a room, the last room on the right. After we get unpacked and settled in, we decide to take a stroll around the block. Closed up the house, turned the lights off, shut the front door, and head out. We planned on just going for a walk and a general interaction with the neighborhood. We made our way around the 5 roads that made up our community. And as we made our way back to the house, we could see it in the distance. All the lights were on in the house and the front door was open. My mom made us stay back about 2 houses up while my dad went and checked the house. When my dad gave the clear, my mom called the police to make a report. They also checked the house and didn't find anything or anyone, so it was just let go. I believe this was one of the first signs of paranormal activity in the house. I don't know quite how much time has passed. It was a short time. Maybe a couple of days or maybe a week. But we did the typical welcome to the neighborhood housewarming party at our house. A lot of neighbors came to visit and to party. Our next-door neighbor, Bill, was hesitant about coming inside. He stayed in the front porch, but eventually came inside, sat on the couch, and just drank some beer. One of the downstairs bedrooms that was attached to the living room, it was mine and my brother's quote-unquote playroom. TV, Sega, Nintendo. My hamster cage was in there also. So during this party, I decided to put my hamster in the ball. Bill was pretty loosened up by this time. Well, said hamster rolled around in his ball and made it into the living room. Bill got quiet. My parents noticed this about Bill and my mom and asked if he was all right. I guess Bill wasn't accustomed to hamsters and their toys, and all he seen was a ball. Bill said, "If that ball moves one more time, I'm leaving and I won't be back." Well, about that time, my hamster kind of turned into a flash and took off in his ball. Bill flew out the door and went home. He stuck to his words years until he moved, and he wouldn't enter our house. Would only come in the driveway or the yard sometimes. But rarely he would come to the front porch, even after my mom told him it's a hamster in a ball. So we're there a few months. This is in the 90s, and, family life and my mom's all outside, starts a conversation with the lady across the street. We're going to call her husband Meemaw and Paw Paw. This is when Meemaw informs my mom that 2 ladies, they died in our house from cancer. Mr. G's wife and daughter. Meemaw also goes to say Mr. G was a weird guy, and apparently he had secret rooms built into the house behind bookshelves, secret doors, and even a full old-school fireman setup, like a fireman axe, a fire hose, and a reel behind a wall she believed it was the wall that the stairs were on. Some people knew about the secret rooms, so I guess it wasn't entirely a secret. I don't think I could not show off secret rooms if I were to have some, so I kind of get it. My mom invited Meemaw over one day, and she was going around the house showing us some of the rooms that were turned into regular rooms. That was before Mr. G sold us the house. One was in our computer room, which had the stairs to go upstairs. Right beside the stairs was a built-in bookshelf. That was one secret room that went under the stairs into the laundry room. The bookshelf has been screwed shut, but if you went through the door on the other side, you could see the back of the bookshelf that still has hinges and was screwed shut to the wall, and on the other side, so it couldn't be open. The upstairs bedroom, meaning my bedroom, you could see a faint crack in the wall that went over the stairs in the shape of a door. It was sealed with sheetrock, and Meemaw told us that's where Mr. G kept his safe. Well, I started elementary school. Used to walk to school, and it was maybe half a mile through the woods. Very close. Everything seemed fine. Had 2 younger sisters now, blah, blah, blah. Around 4th grade, I started noticing when I got home from school just about every day. My mom would be sitting in our van, and she had this little 90s handheld TV. I know. We'd go to Winn-Dixie and buy an Enquirer magazine. I used to get mad because I wanted to go to the store with her, but it was a daily occurrence. During this time I was in elementary school, we would witness things or experience things happening, like doors opening or closing inside the house. It would be slow, like a draft. Not fast, swinging open or slamming shut, but then still moved. Things being moved. My dad played it off as drafts in the house and forgetting that we left, so... Didn't know this at the time, but my mom was stressing and freaking out apparently. And my mom was huge on Psychic Sylvia Browne on the Montel show. And at this time, I'm in middle school. My brother and I came walking home from school one day and noticed a bag with our DVDs sitting beside the trash. So we got them. My mom met us at the door, and we asked why they were put out there. She said Psychic Sylvia Browne said today that if you have horror movies in your house, then you are allowing the devil to enter your home. She made us throw them back out, but we snuck them back into her bedroom. Me and my brother shared a bedroom. Later on into the evening, my mom is still making small talk about Sylvia Browne. She said this, she said that. One of our yearly chores was, as my brother and I hung up the Christmas lights. Well, we were a teen and a preteen at this point and lazy. So this year we decided that we hated doing it, so we left the lights up, and it's months past Christmas. During one of Sylvia Browne's episodes, my mom started screaming at me and my brother to go take down the Christmas lights. Apparently it was because it's bad luck to leave them up all year, and something to do with Satan. This is when by the way, they don't have anything to do with Satan. This is when my brother, I did mention he's 4 years older than me, he makes the comment to my mom, "Yeah, well, this house is already evil. Sometimes I feel like I'm getting my hair pulled and no one's there, and sometimes I hear these people walking up the stairs. No one's ever there." My mom busted into tears. Says the same time it happened to her. And also, she's been pushed down the stairs. Says that's why she sits in the van every day all day long. It's because she's scared to be in the house by herself. So, when we leave for school, she'll be right behind us to go sit in her car all day. At this time, my mom and dad got divorced for whatever reason, never really got into it. So my dad moved back in with his parent. I was kind of jealous at this point because my mom and brother were talking about paranormal stuff happening to them. Nothing ever happened to me. I was unbothered by the spirits. My mom started calling them spirits instead of ghosts or demons. I guess maybe hoping to ease her mind a bit. I was going to leave this part out, but I'll tell it. I was home alone. My brother and little sister went to the grocery store or something, and I, for whatever reason, tried to hang myself with a belt from the attic while they were gone. I remember seeing the light, but I don't know, I didn't make it that far. I woke up on the ground with a massive headache and the belt was broke. I never spoke of this again, but looking back, I can only think the spirit saved me for whatever reason. Got to my feet, ripped the collar off my shirt, and when my family got home, I acted like nothing happened. My mom asked me what happened to my neck. Quickly got the ripped shirt and told her that I was in the attic, and my shirt was caught on a nail and almost choked me. By the way, our house has like 3 attics. One in the front porch, one in the dining room downstairs, and one upstairs in the closet that was originally supposed to be my bedroom. Anyways, now my brother's curious about the attic. So we decided to go up there. We got creeped out because we found a mold of someone's teeth. It scared us, but we didn't let it get to us much because we used to store our toys up there. My mom ended up getting a headboard and a bed frame from a lady because my mom wanted to get rid of her waterbed. That was my dog yawning. Well, a short time after, the lady my mom got the bed from had died. My mom would accuse me and my brother of peeking into her room in the middle of the night. We swore it wasn't us. Then she would say that it was a solid black, shadowy figure as tall as the door frame looking into her room. There was 2 of them, by the way. My mom put 2 and 2 together, and her theory was whatever spirits were in her house didn't like the bed frame because there's possibly a spirit attached to that. She quickly got rid of the bed frame. It's coming up on Christmas time again. I get a remote-controlled truck from my grandmother. Well, me and my brother are in our room watching MTV, and my RC truck starts moving. It drove itself out of the bedroom door and stopped. My brother smacked me in the head and said to stop playing with it or goes downstairs because he's trying to watch TV. Probably the Tom Green show or Celebrity Deathmatch. Loved that show. Told him I'm not playing with it. I forgot it and left the remote control at grandmother's house. We just looked at each other and he told me to get to the truck that I picked up and... Sorry, my dog's yawning more. We each looked at each other and he told me to get the truck and I picked it up and he said to take the batteries out of it because it's probably just an interface with the cord or something. I don't know. It made sense then, apparently. Well, I opened the bottom and it only has 1 of 4 AA batteries in it. We got a little scared. I put the truck underneath my bed and that's where it lived the rest of its life. I got into some trouble at middle school, and I had to be homeschooled. I completely changed my daily schedule, and I'd wind up staying all night talking to people in chat rooms, We had a web TV, not a PC, so when my brother's alarm clock would go off for him to get up for school... That was... Well, my alarm clock to go to bed. Oh. Interesting use of periods. This was our daily and nightly routine all school year. Well, in the time I'm up in the quote-unquote computer room, which was off of the kitchen and had the laundry room in it, we had a curtain that separated the kitchen from the computer room. I started noticing the curtain would move. Not blowing, but crease and move as if something used their arm to move it out of the way. Then the laundry room door would open, then close. And a little while later, the laundry room door would open and close as well. The curtain would crease and move again as if someone was walking back and forth from the kitchen to the laundry room. This went on all school year and into the summer. I named the spirits/ghosts/demons Heidi and Beth. I don't have an explanation as to why I chose those names. Probably because I knew two ladies died, and so I gave them female names. Fair. This was an every night event, really, so I'd welcome them every time. Hi, Heidi. Hi, Beth. I was never bothered by them except for them moving the curtain and the door. Never touched, etc. Well, summer's here, and my brother decided he wanted to stay up and see what I'd do all night. So I introduced him to the world of chat rooms on web TV, Talk City. His first night he's typing away, chatting it up with someone, and he stops mid-sentence. He said, "Is my hair moving?" He had a little alfalfa-looking thing on his head. I looked at his hair, and it was moving as if somebody was flicking it. I said, "No, you're imagining stuff, 'cause you ain't ever stayed up this long." Anyways, we live our lives and share the house with these spirits. Brother gets a girlfriend, moves out. A couple years later, I move in with my girlfriend. My mom goes downhill, heavy drinking, popping pills until it put her in the hospital in June of 2007. July 2007, the house catches fire. The fire department thought arson, but the paperwork is undetermined. August 2007, my mom loses her battle to alcohol after a 3-month stay in the hospital with liver failure. Ugh. Only the downstairs of the house was burned. The fire department got it put out pretty quick. Well, me and my brother decided to go to the house, see if we left anything salvageable in the attic from our childhood. While in the attic, the closet in what was supposed to be my room, something made me start pulling back the insulation up there. I found a Ouija board with a check from Mr. G to professional ambulance service and a picture of two ladies. I'm guessing at the time it's Mr. G's wife and daughter. My brother was in his emo rocker phase, and he decided to have the Ouija board framed up and hung it up at his house on the wall above his bed with the check and the pictures in a Ziploc bag. My oldest sister works for a heating and an air company. Loved her boss, did everything for her and the other employees. We have local dirt track racing where I live. Decided to go one day and posted a picture on Facebook. My sister called me and asked if I was there. She's in the pits that her boss races there on the weekends. She told him her brother was there, and they got us from the grandstands and took us to the pits where she introduced him to us. She said, "B, this is my boss M, and M, this is my brother B." She also told me they found out M is Mr. G's grandson. He built the house that we lived in, too. I just didn't really think to tell you. We talked about the house, and he confirmed his grandma and aunt died there from cancer, and how he stayed there for a while. They had dogs and they had other stuff. We didn't mention it anymore. Started enjoying the weekends with my family at the dirt track, and for being rather, what did they write here? And for being affiliated with the race team, working on the race cars and everything. Well, some time passes, and my brother's wife is diagnosed with cancer, and it's too late. She lost her battle to cancer fairly quick. My brother came to me a few weeks later. Says he wants to get rid of the Ouija board he had framed. That was because he has a feeling that's why his wife passed. That he brought some bad voodoo stuff into their home. He asked if he should throw it away or burn it. Well, from my time watching ghost hunters and paranormal shows, I'm an expert now. So I thought I told him that I believe you can't just get rid of it. You have to release the spirits or something. I don't really know what I was talking about, but it kind of hit me. Hey, I know somebody who might have some answers about it. My brother comes over and I called M, my sister's boss. I said, "Hey M, I have a weird question. Back in the day after the house burned, we decided to snoop in the upstairs attic. Found a Ouija board. Do you know if Mr. G used it?" M said, "No, I used it. I bought it when I was 14 from the local hobby shop." He said he tried to contact his grandma and aunt. I said, "I'm about to send you a picture of everything my brother has and see if you know or just remember it." Well, I put the 2 pictures on the Ouija board, sent him a picture of it. He said, "Yeah, that's my board, and that's pictures of my grandma Heidi and Aunt Beth." Me and my brother looked at each other, pale as can be. If the readers remember earlier, I mentioned when I was a teen I randomly gave the spirits of our house the names Heidi and Beth. I asked him if he wanted all of it, and he said yes, so we returned all of this to the original owner, and that's pretty much where the story ends. Me and my brother have spoken about it a few times and told the story together to people and family. No one ever believes us, so we just told each other that we know the truth because we lived through it. So we'll just have to take it to the grave with us one day. Knocks on the door. I was in Turkmenistan. That's because this country where I'm from, it's a capital city, Ashgabat. I love paranormal videos. That's because I don't know how to explain it, but I love to feel scared sometimes. I live in a big room where there's a big room with a TV and a king-size bed. And there are my bathroom, my changing room, and my workroom. Usually where I sleep, and that's when I get too scared because it's small. I have big windows looking into the street. Basically, I love to close doors in my room. That way no one can disturb me. This includes my sister with her pranks. And one night, I closed the main door for my room. I got very scared this night, so I went just to call it my little office. So I'm in my office, and there's my sofa that I can sleep in with my blanket. It was a good night, very rainy. I was falling asleep, but one thing happened. Someone or something with all his power knocked my door to my office, and I was lying down half asleep in there. I never forget this feeling, waking up so fast and not knowing what to do. That's because of the amount of fear taking over your body and you just turn off your brain. As I got nothing better in my mind, I came to the door really quiet, laid down on my stomach to see who made it. Again, I locked every door, including the main door and the entrance to my room. And also note that I live on the 2nd floor, and I have 2 windows. They're also locked with iron for safety reasons. As I were laying down looking from that door line, I heard steps. I saw something black that were going in my room. I didn't know what to do. I didn't call my mother because she was sleeping with her newborn kid. And I didn't call my sister because I was too scared to talk. Something inside was going and checking everything in my room because I heard it stepping. Then the steps disappeared and gone. I was sitting there in this little office for about 2 hours till 3 or 4 a.m. That's because I was very scared to go out and do something, as it was my first experience with the paranormal thing. And to this day, I can't sleep now in this room. So I go to hall and sleep there. It was the most horrible experience of my life that I never forget to this day. And I don't love sharing with experiences that made me feeling scared because I don't know why I'm just like that. When I told the story to my mom, she wouldn't believe that she was just laughing it off, saying you heard a thunder or something. but I can clearly identify sound of someone knocking, and the thunder was so fast. And the moments that I had in this room made me feel so bad that in the moment I wanted to throw up. To this day, I feel weird even being in the room. I always feel with my gut that something or someone is watching over. So yeah, this was kind of creepy. Thinking about a creature I saw about 3 years ago outside my house. I made a throwaway for this because I feel like I'm going a bit crazy. So this all happened during COVID times. I think I just blocked it out of my head to keep going, but the vivid memory came back today. It was about 7 o'clock in spring before the clocks went forward, so the sky was orange and pink. This was in North Wexford near the coast. I was walking up the stairs and I looked into my kitchen door. That's where I could see out my screen window. God Almighty couldn't have prepared me for what I saw. Standing upright, it has legs like my dog's, like those canine legs, but it was upright. Must have been about 7 feet tall, covered from head to toe in coarse brown hair. I only saw the back of it. That's all I saw. I just kept walking up the stairs, paused for a minute, sat quietly with my family, and never told anybody. I don't really care who doesn't believe this, and who does. Don't feel the need to express your opinions if you don't believe me. But please help me and try to give me an explanation if you're knowledgeable. I don't have any evidence or anything, but all I can tell you is that I saw the beast as clear as I can see my own hand, as clear as others see me. My Nana had a conversation with the dead. I used to poke around YouTube videos of the subreddit. I wasn't allowed social media until recently. My Nana is quite the character. She's not crazy, but had a crazy life. Grew up in London and Vancouver, Canada. She had top grade in her high school classes and went on to be a psychiatric nurse in the downtown east side. If anybody's curious about her experiences there, I'll maybe poke around her story for y'all. Anyways, this happened years after this moment. Our grandpa and her former lover had passed on recently as of this story. We were all heartbroken by this moment, and we didn't really know how to react. She told us it was early in the morning. She couldn't sleep. I was restless, and the dog wouldn't stop whining, so I went to take it for a walk. I knew the rough area she went on a walk to, and it was a long path running parallel to the creek by her house. It had many benches and fishing spots. Nothing too special. She then went to say, I got up to go on a walk, but I didn't want to. I want to stay, but I was being pulled by both the dog and something about the night. I got the dog ready and walked the path outside. She went on to explain that her head was down when she heard a voice. She looked up to see nothing and no one. It was pitch black, the bit of light in the distance toward the main street. She had continued by, saying that she sat down at the bench behind her, waited with the dog. A slow formation of fog overcame her. She thought nothing of it until it was cold. She got really cold. She finished by saying, I said out loud how much I missed Greg, my grandpa. And that's when this happened. A smell of cigarettes filled the air, but again, no one was outside. So I stood to just take a glance around when Nikki, her dog, started to bark and pulled away from the leash and into the fog. I ran after her, and when I found her, the cigarette smell was more potent. Nikki was sitting still in front of someone. as if she had already knew who it was. Well, it was my grandfather. She told him that she loved him, and he smiled. He was holding a cigarette, walked into the fog, and became one with it. The cigarette are an important detail. That's because my grandfather was a chain smoker. He was constantly stressed traveling between the two countries, Canada and the U.S. Had a lot of work in his hands. Died of lung cancer because of the chain smoking and the stress. Never once known. Did he ever tell us that he was suffering? He wouldn't sleep, but we didn't know. He was also anti-hospital, anti-doctor, so never went to see anybody about what was going on with his lungs. Got his diagnosis the day he died. Rest in peace, sir. My paranormal experiences in Croatia. I spent a lot of my time at my family's vacation house in Toropolski. Whoa, is that right? Toropolski. Yeah, sure. Let me just retake that. I spent a lot of time at my family's vacation house in Toropolski Lug, a remote, swampy forest in Croatia. The house is completely isolated, sitting by a river deep in the woods, with the nearest small town about 20 minutes away by car. My dad built this in the late 90s, and since we lived in Zagreb, it became our weekend escape. When I turned 13, he bought me a dirt bike since the forest was full of trails. There were rarely any vehicles around except for the occasional hunter. One night, my friend Tony, who's from the town nearby, we were riding through the woods when we came across this strange Egyptian-looking monument. Just two large poles standing on either side of the trail in the middle of nowhere. We'd been riding for at least 30 minutes into the forest, so we stopped there to rest and to talk for a bit. The forest was alive as usual, filled with the sounds of crickets, frogs, and owls. But as we stood there, I noticed something odd. The noise was fading. Little by little, the forest grew quieter until there was nothing. No crickets, no birds, just silence. Before I could even mention it to Tony, we heard something that still haunts me to this day. A high-pitched, unnatural scream, almost like something starving and angry. It was distant at first, but it echoed through the trees, cutting through the silence like a knife. It didn't sound like any animal I knew. Something about it felt wrong. Without hesitating, we jumped on our bikes and sped out of there, not stopping until we were far from that spot. I asked Tony what the hell that was. He tried shrugging it off, saying it was probably a bear. But the way he said it, quickly, like he just wanted to move on, made me think he didn't really believe that either. When I told my parents about it later, they just laughed and said I was imagining things. It was probably a bear, just like Tony said. About 3 years later, I had another encounter, and this time it was worse. I was riding alone at night. I was going deeper into the woods than I'd planned. It was completely pitch black, and the only thing lighting my way was the dim headlamp on my bike. I wasn't really paying attention to where I was going until I realized I'd gone too far, further than I'd ever been alone. But just as I was about to turn back, it happened again. The forest sounds disappeared. A chill ran down my spine. That was as the realization hit me. It was exactly like last time. Then before I could react, the scream came again, but this time it was louder, closer, and aggressive. I felt my body freeze, my hands gripping the handlebars. My bike was still running, idling beneath me, but I was too too terrified to move. Started scanning the darkness around me, my eyes flicking back and forth. I couldn't see anything past my headlamp. The forest was just a wall of black. Then I heard a man's voice. Someone there? It was coming from somewhere in the trees, just beyond the reach of my light. My heart was hammering, but for some reason I felt the need to respond. "Hello?" I called out. The voice responded immediately. "Hello." Something about the way they said it made my stomach drop. It didn't sound natural. It was like they were mimicking me. It went from a mature man's voice to a younger adult's voice. I swallowed hard and forced myself to ask, "Did you hear that?" There was a pause. Then the voice answered back. "Heard what?" That was enough for me. I twisted the throttle and the bike roared to life as I tore out of there, not daring to look back. I don't know if something was behind me, and honestly, I don't want to know. When I finally made it back home, I told my parents again. They just rolled their eyes, told me to stop making up stories. Still don't know what I encountered in those woods. Whatever it wasn't an animal. And I sure as hell wasn't witnessing a human. Since that day, I've never been in the woods with my bike after dark. Tried looking into Turopolsky Lug's history, see if there was any paranormal reports. Couldn't find much detailed information online. There are definitely eerie elements tied to the area, like the old wooden chapels, which are part of Croatia's rich sacral architecture. Some of these chapels date back centuries and are linked to earlier religious and some other weird practices. As for the strange lights, shadows, and eerie noises, these kind of stories are common in forest folklore worldwide. While Turopolsky Lug has its share of mystical legends, including the Black Queen and Baba Roga, a lot of what makes this place unsettling comes from oral traditions and personal experiences, which may never have been formally recorded, of course. Still, after what I've experienced, I know for a fact that something's out there, even if I can't explain what. Help. A dream when someone close to me was gonna die. In the last 11 years, I've been dreaming with the death of close relatives. The first time it happened was about my auntie who had leukemia. She managed to win the battle, but once she got healthier, in a lapse of a week, the paralyzed intestines got her health down. The day we decided to visit her in the hospital on Saturday, surprisingly, let me get into oncology area to visit my auntie. That day I massaged her legs, arms, and shoulders. She wasn't able to move or speak because, well, so doped up with the pain. That night I dreamed about arriving into an enormous house. There was a big party taking place. I was searching in the crowd for my auntie until I found her. She was in the middle of the room because the party was for her. At that moment I never told anyone about that dream, till the day my aunt just died on Wednesday. Never related the dream with it, and during Friday I dreamt about her and she was at her home gossiping with my mom while one of my other aunties was cooking. My auntie looked way different than the last time I saw her. She was bald and so pale with dry skin because of chemo. This time she had long straight hair. She looked so young and bright, and in the dreams we invited her to stay to have a meal. But her just said goodbye because she needed to go see her kids, then walked to the door, side a big window, like a 70s style house. The outside sun was so bright. The second time was after a year that my auntie died. I dreamed about being in a big reunion in a garden with the sky being so bright. like how sky is at 10 a.m. during the summer. The grass was so green. There were so many people unknown to me. Everyone was dressed in white clothes, and there was a large table with an extra-large size pot. Had some kind of a meat stew. The man who was serving the meat was that auntie who dies years ago's husband. And yes, he died during summer. His body was discovered at 10 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday. That's because his son asked his little sister, who didn't go to church that Sunday, why their father didn't come. The third time happened 3 weeks ago. I dreamed about I was at my grandma's house again. A lot of people were there, just like how it used to be when it's a celebration or maybe a reunion. But I was eating meat tacos, a specific kind of taco rojos. I don't know how to speak Spanish. Tacos, R-O-J-O-S. And they are big tacos with a lot of meat. Tacos rojos, maybe? I remembered my mom told me in real life I didn't really had to eat meat during dreams, but I had that thought in the dream, so I spat the chew of taco and asked who took that tacos there. Somebody told me, your uncle. When I turned my sight to this uncle, I saw an uncle who died December 21st of 2024. Immediately, I thought about my grandma. She was the next. But once I woke up, I saved that dream to myself. That's because I don't like to talk about that. It makes me feel anxious and nervous the whole time since I know how it works, and yes, I was right. Yesterday, March 31st, my grandma died. And today at the funeral, a lot of people came and chatted just like we were in a normal reunion. Everybody cried, or rather, anyone cried, just laughing and gossiping. Bonus. 2 years ago, my grandma had a high wish to die, and after her birthday, I dreamed about up in her childhood house where I meet her sister, the ones who loved more my grandma. And in the dream, I saw myself as my grandma in her childhood. So I asked for my sister and my mom, my grandma's relatives, and then her sister came and told me, "No, little girl, tell. Isn't her time yet? She still has so many time there too." And then I said, "Oh, okay." Turned myself out of the house just to have a sight of the light blue near the white sky with the cornfields in front of the house front yard. And the porch her relatives had been there joking and chatting. I felt a big peace in that place, and then I woke up. Almost certain my pet visits me. My ferret, Rocket, died a year ago. He was my best and only friend for 8 years while I fought to save my sister from an abusive husband. I worked day and night to make enough money to throw him out of our old family home. This is why I was able to move in. He wouldn't allow it if he owned the place. I got a ferret because they sleep for most of the day, so I could make it to work with the odd hours of my schedule. No time for friends or going out, and he was the only thing I had time for. We were each other's whole world, and I've moved twice, gone through 3 jobs and 3 years of college since I had him in my life. Needless to say, it felt like I had him for a lot longer than that. He was beyond important to me, and I miss him more than anything. I'm 99% sure he's still around. He was the only one of my ferrets, who died here in the house. So if any of them were visiting, it would be him. I've had 2 major time periods of poltergeist activity since I've moved here. And clearly human at that. Like throwing things across the room, turning on my desk lamp. But there have also been really low interactions as well. Things moved about at ground level. Toys I used to play with. And all in the same corner of my room. I heard him sneeze once, and undoubtedly a ferret sneeze. I'd like to hear that. I felt a soft brush of fur on my feet 3 times now this past week, and I also swear I felt his little nose poke me. Has to be him, it has to. If my little rocket ship is still there interacting with me on any level, it can't be completely gone. There's times, and this is one of them, where I just break down remembering how I screamed, he's gone, I'll never hold him again. That was the day he died. It's given me hope that maybe I was wrong about that. Maybe I can find him again. Or maybe he'll come back as a person. Stranger things have happened. I think my house is haunted. Hello. I've recently moved into a new house, and it's an understatement to say it was an eventful couple of months. Previous to living here, I had little experience with paranormal stuff, but since living here, I've seen and heard things that I really don't know how to explain in any way. It all started in the second week I was fully living there that I started to really question things. The first thing that I saw, I was so scared I was home alone. My mom went to her friends, and all of a sudden, the door just slowly opened. And I know it could not be the wind since the door is connected to the hallway. The door would have opened otherwise, and if it did, it was fully closed. That night going to bed, I heard growling. I couldn't sleep at all. My encounter after was when I was with my little brother. Heard a female voice and some knocks. And by the way, I live in the city center and we have a pub next door, but I never had any sounds being heard from there into the house. Yet I was still really skeptical. Since mentioning earlier, I never have had any clear encounters like this one. But today, shit went down. I still don't know how to explain this. Still shivering and can't sleep. It's even currently 1 a.m. whilst writing this. I've seen a shadowy, I don't know what it is, walking over my floor. But not standing upright, but walking crouched down, and afterwards my lights started to go crazy and flickering a lot. First I thought my eyes played tricks on me, and maybe the electricity was just messed up. But then this one light went crazy, and for that light it was impossible to turn on and change colors that fast. I was shocked, and since I was skeptical from the last couple encounters, I thought, let's just ask it questions, like I have seen people do online. So I introduced myself, and I said, if you'd like to connect with me, change the color to blue for yes and red for no. When that light was tripping, it switched to every color, by the way. But when asking the questions, it actually only used red or blue. When I asked it to turn them off, it did. I've asked a couple of questions the first, and I was like, am I welcome here? And it luckily instantly reacted with blue. So I was shocked that it even reacted. And so here's some information I know now, at least. It's a female that's been here before, 1928, the year my house was built. But it was here since a good memory happened here. We have a movie theater 2 houses next to us that was bigger back in the day, so it expanded to my house. And she's fine with us living here and likes talking. But after my last question, I asked, are you happy here? And it just stopped communicating. Since then, I couldn't stop shivering. Probably not for the upcoming time. I luckily did film a part of the encounter. Sorry for the poor English, by the way, not my main language. Doing better than some people who have it as their main language. Is this normal? And is there anything to debunk this? I'll update if something happens again. It had long black hair and no face. My sister and I both live in central West Michigan, in the Lower Peninsula. 2 weeks ago, we wanted to go out for the day and get where we wanted. It was a pretty fairly long drive, so we started out at dawn just as the sun was starting to rise. We agreed to stop at the gas station in town to get something to eat and drink. We also needed a new car charging port because the one that we had went out. This gas station is quite large and pretty nice as far as gas stations go in the area. Up until this incident, we had really both been there many times and were very familiar with the layout too. It has both a front and a back entrance, as well as a little tucked away cutout in the wall with seating. It's located by the back door, so you can buy a sandwich or whatever, sit down and eat it. This little seating area is rectangular. It's enclosed by 3 walls, one large table at the back with 3 chairs, and 2 much smaller tables on the other 2 sides, each with 2 chairs. For you to get to and from the back door, you have to walk right past it. We came in through the back entrance, just kind of walking directly past the seating cut out to our right so we could get to the larger part of the gas station and get to our things. Both of us made note that aside from the 2 workers behind the counter, there wasn't anyone else in the station. After we found what we needed, we just checked out, and during that, we made some small talk with the workers. I was finishing up with the conversation when my sister started walking toward the back door. Because of this, she was ahead of me by maybe 20-ish feet by the time I started after her. When she reached the door, she looked over her shoulder at me. It struck me as odd that she was checking to make sure I was following her, because I knew that she knew I was. Walked into view of the right side table and in the seating area, and I understood why she looked to make sure that I was following. The moment it came into my line of sight, I was filled with guttural, instinctual fear. It's difficult to describe what it felt like because it was so different than anything I've ever experienced before. Whatever it was shaped like a human. It was sitting in a chair back to the wall with its arms resting on the table in front of it. The only 2 details both of us can remember without a doubt, it's that it had long black hair and was holding something that looked to be cup-shaped between his hands. I never even looked directly at it, but it looked at me and stared at me. I could feel its piercing gaze on me as I continued to walk past. And after I reached the door, we both quickly walked out of our car. After I started the car, my sister realized we forgot to grab the car charging port. So she just suggested that we just run back in and grab one real quick. We shot down that pretty quickly. Neither of us wanted to go back in because of the creepy guy sitting at the table. So we decided to stop at the next gas station. We went on with our day, not talking about or even really thinking about the gas station guy. I honestly completely forgot about it. And it's been that way for the past 2 weeks. Until Saturday, when my sister was staying at my place for the weekend, did we ever talk about it. Neither of us can remember this thing having a face. No eyes, nose, mouth, nothing. Just that it had black hair and holding something cup-shaped and was without a doubt watching us. Its silhouette and face, they were blurred like an unfocused camera lens. Neither of us can remember any other details, like what color clothes it was wearing or if it even had legs. One thing's certain, both of us felt the same horrible feeling from it, and neither of us looked it in the face. We didn't choose not to look at it, we just didn't, if that makes any sense. Both of us instinctively knew not to look at this thing. As we're walking around getting our things, both of us just kind of came into view of that table multiple times. Never once did we notice anyone sitting there. If it was sitting at that table the whole time, we would have noticed. And at no point when we were there did anyone enter or leave the station. We're both extremely observant people, and we would have noticed. And the even more fucked up part is that the way it was sitting, and the table size didn't make sense. The table's very small and kind of always pushed against the wall, It was sitting in between the wall and a large, long table in place of where the other table should have been. Neither of us have been there since, and it could have been possible that they changed the layout, and that was maybe the first time we saw it. Very possible, right? So, Sunday morning, we go check to see if they had changed the layout, exactly how we remember it. One big table, two smaller tables, so it was in fact impossible for it to have been sitting like that. Honestly, I believe it was something else. What it was, I have no clue, but it scared me shitless. I apologize if this is a bit confusing. The layout of the gas station is kind of hard to explain in words alone. Thumping on door last night. Hello guys, I'm from Pakistan. So we and 8 people live in a hostel, and we're all students in university. It's been happening for 1 month, but last night it was too much. Last night I hear regular knocks on my door, and I decided I hear the next knock, I'm going to swing open the door, so at 2:35, after waiting for 8 minutes since the last knock, I swing open the door. No one was there, and I thought I was just too late. Then I heard small, low knocking sounds on the balcony. Swung open fast. No one was there again. I thought students are pranking me. I asked the administrator for the last night's footage from 2 to 4 a.m. at night. Nobody was even on the footage. I know the hostel administrator very well. She wouldn't prank me. And I could see the video footage to be authentic. This is today in the afternoon, so I slept at 4 a.m. Woke up at 6:30 a.m. in the morning, and I hear sandals, like running sounds. Like someone's running in sandals, but no one was even there. Checked every room, all hiding spots, corners, and everything. Nothing. I hope I'll find a thief or something, but there's nothing. And to make it clear, I'm an atheist. I often have visited graveyards at night alone, but never felt this type of thing. Telepathy thread? ? First, quote-unquote big WTF moment. Driving at night with my husband when all of a sudden I had this anxious thought cross my mind of a deer potentially running across the road. I asked my husband to put his seatbelt on, since I noticed it wasn't on. The feeling came again even stronger. I lifted my foot off the gas and I had it hovering over this brake, and not even 2 seconds later a deer ran immediately in front of my car. If I had stayed at the initial speed I was going, we 100% would have hit it at 50 miles an hour. That's just how close the deer was to my car. And by the way, this happened 4 years ago. Everything else is more minor, but very frequent, I'd say. Like thinking of someone, then they call or text, and this has been happening so often lately, I swear, like several times a week with either my husband or my mom. I'll be thinking of them, and immediately after they'll call or text me. I've also had this happen with people I haven't spoken to in months or years. Then they'll always be in contact with me shortly after I think of them. I also feel like this happens a lot with things like songs and movies. I'll think of them, and I'll either hear the song shortly after, or it'll come up in some way. I've even had people call it out to me like, "Whoa, you were just talking about this movie earlier," as an example. Constant nonverbal communication with my best friend. Her sister noticed it before I even did. She called us out on it at lunch one day saying, "What is happening? You guys are like having a full conversation, but like not even speaking, but you're responding to each other." I didn't really notice that day. Don't know what she was talking about until last week that I was with my friend and I gave her a look. I was about to give her shit about not reading a book, but before I even said anything, she responded, "I know, I need to read the book." There's no context prior to my look that would have meant her even to remotely think I was going to say that to her. We also haven't talked about that book in months either. No, those things definitely happen. Thing that gets me is I'd leave a CD in my car and, whenever you're done, you turn your car off and whatever song cuts as you turn your car off, and maybe I don't go anywhere for several days, and the second, or rather 5 seconds before I turn the car on, I've got the song stuck in my head. Turn the car on, resumes exactly where it should be. Although, I attribute that to internal clock or something. That ever happened to you guys? Weird things happening in my house. For a little bit of context, I've lived in my house for 2 years now. And I lived next door with my parents for 9 years as well, and don't know of anybody dying in the house. My grandpa passed away November 2023. I do have a small amount of his ashes as well. About a year ago, weird things started happening in my house. Doors unlocking and opening on their own, and when I'm in different parts of the house and home alone. My Alexa randomly playing a song I've never heard before. Lights and the switch turning off on their own. Roomba. Now, the most notable thing that's happened is my friend was just spending the night. My boyfriend was working late, and my friend and I both went to our rooms to fall asleep. Maybe an hour later, we both heard someone unlock my front door. Then we heard them take a step into my house. Sounded like a man in work boots. Naturally, we both thought that my boyfriend was home. Plot twist. He was still on the job site a few towns away. My friend said when she heard the door open, something felt cold and heavy over her chest. We both got up and my door was still locked and closed. Nothing came up on my doorbell camera. We were both equally spooked, so we stayed up until my boyfriend got home. Since then, no other crazy weird stuff has happened. My Alexa has randomly turned on, and I've had my phone act weird frequently. But nothing out of the ordinary that wasn't happening before that night. Any thoughts? Should I be worried at all? Min Min Lights, QLD, Australia. My mum has always told us a story growing up. Scared the biscuits out of me and still gives me goosebumps. Her and a friend were driving back from Roma to Toowoomba, QLD. I guess that means Queensland. I think. They were driving at night and they saw a light coming up behind them, which turned into two. Initially, they thought it was just a train coming up, only to realize that there's no tracks next to them. The light kept coming and then went beside them and shot far ahead. It then came back to the car and was headed straight to it like a head-on collision. By this point, Mom and her friend were petrified. Mom was screaming, "Stop driving, you're going to hit it," thinking it again was a train as the lights were too high up for a car. Apparently, it went back under the car and behind them, continued doing this for about 30 minutes. They were hysterical, and two girls in their 20s, shit scared and sober. Only when they got closer to town, and the sort of town lights, that's when they wound up disappearing. Mom and her friend then ran inside to her father and could tell something wasn't right due to the look on their faces. He told them both to the other rooms at different times, and they both told the exact same story. Believe it or not, however, I know my mom very well, as most would. You know when you can tell someone is lying or when they're kind of still scared by it, and they're telling the truth. I very much know my mom's telling the truth, and a friend of hers backed it up. Chills right in the still 20 years later. Lady in White Encounter. I spend 6 months out of the year in the fire lookout station, and for privacy, not saying where, but alone, the trees and the sky. I'm used to solitude, and I like it most of the time. Backpacking clears my head and makes me less lonely. But recently, I couldn't help but wonder if I wasn't alone. The first time I saw her, I thought I was dreaming. It was almost sunset. The light was dying, but I could still look down the trail. That's when I saw her standing at the edge of the woods, immobile. She was a woman dressed in white, shining against the dark woods. Couldn't budge. I stared at her for what felt like forever. Then I blinked and she vanished. That night it raged. The wind was howling so strongly it seemed like a hurricane had magically appeared outside. The cabin creaked and cracked, and the radio lost power. Then I got a call for help. Tiny fire a few miles down the road, and we put it out, but couldn't help but wonder if maybe the woman had started it. I attempted to forget it, and I'd perhaps been just tired or hallucinating. Then it happened again. A week or so later, I'm watching her from the tower window. She was on the ridge in that same white dress, just staring. My stomach just twisted. I knew something awful was going to happen. That night, the wind came back again, and that old antenna fell over. I was alone for hours. It happened a few times now, though. I just keep seeing her, always in the distance, always quiet, and every time something goes awry, a storm, missing a hiker, or even a bear that wanders too close, it's like she attracts chaos with her, like some sort of specter who brings calamity just for being there. I've even tried talking to her. I've even yelled. Nothing. She just stands there. When she's around, the air feels heavy, like everything's holding its breath. One night it got worse. I woke up to this soft tapping on the cabin door. Tapping fingers, so to speak. I was already in a hurry before I got up, and I grabbed my flashlight and began walking slowly toward the door. I was telling myself that it was just a branch. But the tappings grew louder. I breathed deeply and opened the door. Nothing but black. I swept the light around, but no branches, no wind, and just stillness. Then I saw her. She was on the absolute edge of the porch, 10 feet from me. Her dress shone. I couldn't breathe. Her face was the worst part. It was blank and smooth. No features. I dropped the flashlight and it rolled. It created shadows everywhere. Out of nowhere, she screamed. It was the worst ear-shattering scream I've ever heard. It was 1,000 voices all at once. The sound was ringing off in my bones. Put my hands over my ears, but it didn't make any difference. I could have sworn my head was going to burst. And then, as it had started, it stopped. I'd glanced up, and she was gone. The night was once more quiet, as if nothing whatsoever had even happened. Didn't sleep that night. Turned on every light and sat in the corner waiting. Couldn't help but wonder, what if she had moved a little bit closer? Now, whether I'm in the woods or whether I'm at the cabin, I can feel eyes upon me. The air is icy, and a mere sound makes me jump. I just have music on the radio so I don't feel as alone. No idea if she's warning me or if she's bringing the bad things upon me herself. But one thing's certain, I get this queasy feeling every time I see her, and sure enough, something will go wrong, and it does. I once heard strange, watery singing in an area surrounded by ponds. I was living with my girlfriend at the time. I was in an apartment complex near a stream that, from my knowledge of the area, I'd lived in an adjacent town within a few miles for my whole life, and, well, word gets around about area history. Apparently, it was a frequent battleground. For reference, this was in Ohio. Apparently, arrowheads were found frequently in this area, suggesting Native Americans fighting, but also, or hunting by the way, but also I heard a rumor that other battles were between natives and maybe colonists. Maybe they fought here. It was around 3 a.m. I went outside for a cigarette in the back porch. And there's numerous man-made ponds in the area for, floodplain insurance reasons. Is that how that works? My mother sold apartments across the stream, told me about how it was a 100-year-old floodplain and all these ponds were there for the overflow. Well, I'm smoking my cigarette and I heard this super weird feminine singing I can only describe as water ear, how I think maybe a mermaid would sing. It was intoxicating and beautiful. It made me want to walk toward it to find the source. But every instinct in my body felt like there was danger doing this. So I ignored it and went back inside to head back to bed about half of the smoke. Still think about it sometimes and wonder what it was. Kept getting these visuals of myself standing up and walking toward the source of the sound like a mental suggestion. The fear in the back of my head made me stay. I said, screw that, I'm good on whatever that shit is, out loud to myself. Went back inside. Wish I could do that. My dead friend used the German beetles to communicate with us. German beetles. During the summer before my senior year of high school, my two friends and I had a sleepover to celebrate the fact that we were about 9 months away from never having to go to high school again. The night was long, mostly consisting of us listening to music and laughing about nothing, being the reason for her mom getting no sleep that night. And at some point, my friend Marin began going through her iTunes library to reveal us an entire collection of German Beatles covers. The concept was too much for us. There was just something so absurd about the fact that the Beatles had an entire discography in German. We had never known about it. As in they themselves sung it in German? Is that real? The joke ran tirelessly through the night. It ended in some sort of an Instagram movie trilogy starring plastic farm animals, Lincoln Logs, and a giant stuffed dog. It ended in tragedy. Not my best work, but had the song of the night on it, which is I Want to Hold Your Hand, or as the Germans would say, Komm, gib mir deine Hand. Became a running joke of sorts for the rest of the school year. We would have Marin show off her unique Beatles discography to any, play practice or any sort of party that we would go to. During the spring of that year, we lost Marin in a tragedy. It was the kind of loss that affected the whole city. Grieving alongside so many people was a strange experience. It felt both deeply personal and impossible and vast, like we all experienced the same thing. But the grieving felt so lonely. During that time, my friends and I were in our high school spring play. It was, weirdly, one of the best things for us. Being surrounded by people who knew and loved Marin the same way that we did gave us a kind of unspoken support system. Even on the worst days, we had rehearsals to ground us in something familiar, something normal. One Saturday morning before rehearsal, my friend Aaron and I were sitting in my car outside the gymnasium entrance. It was a 2004 Jeep Commander, which is important to note because it was old enough that its Bluetooth capabilities were questionable. When I would turn off the car, which would turn off the Bluetooth, the radio would automatically switch back to the station I was streaming from. I have no idea what the station was called. It was either playing classical music or local church stuff. I don't remember what Aaron and I were talking about that morning. I just know that it was interesting enough to keep us sitting there chatting away while the car idled. We lost track of time, almost making ourselves late for rehearsal. Finally, I turned off the car, and as expected, the Bluetooth cut out. I braced myself to drive the volume knob before we got an earful of geriatric station. But before I could turn it off, I recognized that the radio was playing something different. Komm, gib mir deine Hand. It was crackling through the radio. The heart of the song caught both of our attention. Time slowed. We both froze. We didn't need to process anything. We just listened. I don't even remember if we said anything at first. I just remember the feeling of it. The overwhelming, impossible realization that Marin had somehow queued up our song. Aaron and I grabbed onto each other, screaming and laughing while holding back tears. We didn't feel any grief and definitely weren't scared. We just felt this feeling that she was back in the back seat, laughing and experiencing this moment with us. I can confidently say I never felt a moment like that in my life. And I have OCD, so finding meaning in everything is a side effect for me. This was not one of those moments. I feel confidently that Marin communicated with us in the best way that she can. She wasn't a ghost. She just maybe stuck around a bit longer, make sure everyone was doing all right. I kept that Jeep until my senior year of college. Never before or after that day did I hear the Beatles on that station again. I gotta check that out. I saw the man on the moon. This happened when I was young. I want to say maybe 5 or 8. I genuinely can't remember the age, but I'll remember what I saw. My parents were picking me and my siblings from our babysitters. Guess we ended up staying and riding our tricycles around the driveways, and I remember it being a really, really fun night and a shitty childhood. Everything felt awesome and fun. Anyways, my mom was holding me while we sat in the driveway. I looked up at the crescent moon. I saw what can best be described as the DreamWorks opening where the man's fishing off the moon, which sounds very, very made up. But I remember giggling and laughing and being in awe. My mom agreeing with me and laughing with me. I've never ever seen it again, and it's been 15 plus years. The only problem is that I was young and kids have very active imaginations. My mom also saw it, and I can't imagine it was that vivid of a dream. And considering I saw ghosts or apparitions for a while growing up, I'd like to believe it was real. Me too. And all of you listening, unless you're bots, and me, are also most definitely real. Sweet dreams.